Welcome to the secret garden on this glorious day. I'm going to be a bit squinty because I'm outside and there's a bit of ambient bee and breeze noise, but it's so gorgeous sitting in front of these beautiful poppies and whatever these enormous blue flowers are that I don't know if you can tell me in the chat maybe what they are. I just had to share it with you, and I don't know if you can see, but there are bees absolutely loving all these plants, and I hope you can pick some of that in the sound as well. I am drinking, of course, my salty dog here with pink grapefruit juice I went for. So, ooh, chin chin, push hearts. Oh, it is a salty rim. And I have my friend here, Maxie. Have a little lay on the Maxie's balls for you. Yeah, no, darling. We're just looking after this little guy, which is very apt. This is my friend, my lovely friend Ellie's puppy, because we're going to talk today about animal rights. Hello. Turns out Yuke's perfect little dog bed. There you go, Maxie. Oh, did I drop you? There you are, baby. Maxie is fine. No Maxie's were hurt in making of this video. So yeah, we're looking with my amazing guest collaborator, Naomi, at animal rights as they overlap with the suffrage movement, and it's quite an apt time because we've just had the G7 down here, presuming that the 7 biggest military spenders in the world are not going to do anything about the climate crisis. There's a sign, usually you can see behind me, it's just above outshot. There's a sign at the moment in beautiful village that I live opposite saying, "As the seas die, we die." So this seems like a good time to talk about animal rights then and now. And it's a quirky old mix of a show, because we're going to talk about, we're going to have a look at the Culture Club and talk about the sexual politics of meat. And we're going to do interviews within interviews, so that'll be very interesting. And to start us off, I've done a quirky little mashup on Mrs. Lovely, the uke. I don't know if mashups really work on the ukulele, but let's give it a go, shall we? Welcoming you in with some animal song. I want to just let you know that Maxie is just completely chilled down here, just lying in the sun with me. So dropping him seems to have made absolutely no difference to his quality of life. Is it a kind of a dream, floating out of the tide, following the river of death downstream? Is it a dream? There's a fog along the horizon, a strange glow in the sky, and nobody seems to know where you go. And what does it mean? Oh, is it a dream? When I was a child, running in the night, afraid of what might be, hiding in the dark, hiding in the street, and of what was following me. Now the hounds of love are hunting. I've always been a coward, and I don't know what's good for me. Bright eyes, burning like fire, bright eyes. How can you close and fail? How can the light that burnt so brightly suddenly burn so pale? Bright eyes. Is it a kind of a shadow reaching into the night, wandering over the hills unseen? Or is it a dream? There's a high wind in the trees, a cold sound in the air, and nobody ever knows where you go. And where do you start? Oh, into the dark. Found a fox caught by dogs. He let me take him in my hands. His little heart, it beats so fast, and I'm ashamed of running away from nothing real. I just can't deal with this. Take your shoes off and throw them in the lake. Do you know what I really need? Do you know what I really need? love. Bright eyes, burning like fire, bright eyes. How can you close and fail? How can the light that burned so brightly suddenly burn so pale? Bright eyes. And on that note, I'd just like to add that this episode is dedicated to the amazing work of Keep the Ban. So, petition, donate, but let's protect everything. Got so preoccupied with Maxie there that I forgot to tell you that we're going to watch the interviews now that me and Naomi have been doing. So it's very much in our homes again, still obviously contending with the sitch. So you'll see us first her in her book-lined library and me and her talking in our little houses on our Zoom calls, and then an extract that she's chosen with her actors doing that across their Zooms, and then a really nice interview that she does with one of those actors because the piece had turned out to be very meaningful for her. There's a bit of a jazzy, flowery background on the actor's Zoom that I rather like, but it may slightly interfere with the recording quality, I'm not quite sure, so bear with. Imagine beautiful flowers behind our lovely actress as she's giving her interview with Naomi, and I'll see you after all that. Hello, how lovely to see you again.
Hello, how nice to see you.
Ooh. Again, I like the way that not only is your study now booklined, but it's also beautifully lit. Little fairy lights.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, fairy lights do make everything beautiful.
They really do. And we're here to talk about animals. And I just realised that you are sitting below a very heraldic-looking bird of some kind.
I am. I'm just going to move my screen up so you can see it more fully. Can you see it there? Yes. So behind me, it is a reproduction of the banner of the Women Writers Suffrage League, which was an organisation founded in 1908 for professional writers who wanted to support the Votes for Women cause. So you could join if you had anything, you've been paid for anything, so an article or a play or a novel, you could join. And so there were lots of cross membership between obviously the Actresses Franchise League and the Women Writers, but the Women Writers also had an affiliated men's league or a men's group. So prominent playwrights like Lawrence Houseman, for example, were also part of the Women Writers Suffrage League. So on this banner, it's black and white. The design is by Mary Lowndes, who designed a lot of suffrage banners. And if you go on the LSE, so the Women's Library LSE, their Flickr online, you can see all her designs of banners. It's amazing. So this one is loosely based on the logo or the heraldry of the Worshipful Company of Scriveners. So there's an eagle, what looks like an eagle, with holding a sort of pen case in its mouth. It's quite a medieval style pen case. Then there's a quill, and then the Latin motto on the bottom is Litera Scripta Manit, which means the written word remains. So yeah, that's what I've got here. It's a very inspirational banner to have in one's office.
It is, absolutely. And I like the fact that the worshipful, whatever it was, whatever they were, it sounds very Terry Pratchett as well. It sounds like one of the kind of animal guilds. Quite enjoying.
It does. In fact, you can see, and you can see our wonderful Jackie Fleming has done a sort of recreation of 3 of the suffragist writers holding this banner that you'll see in our final salon as the logo for our final salon. Yay! Here we go.
Oh, lovely. Well, do you want to talk to us about the illustration for this salon? Because we're doing birds of it, aren't we? And she's drawn as the most beautiful parrots, really gorgeous.
Why? She has, and I'm
Why did you do that?
Why did she do that? Well, a few years ago, I checked my Twitter account to discover my complete delight at discovering a few years ago. Even last year, gosh, that everything through COVID feels like a few years ago. Last year, but in the before times, that there was such a thing as suffrage parrots, or nearly there was such an idea as suffrage parrots, because a very wealthy, she didn't start life wealthy, she started life as she was born in Lambeth, 9th of 10 children, and wanted to be an actress. She was a chorus girl as a teenager, but she married very well. Her name was Lucy, and by this point, by 1912, she was Lady Lucy Byron, and a suffragist. She used to go to Hampstead Heath. She lived just off Hampstead Heath. She would go to Hampstead Heath and speak about suffrage, and apparently ended one of her speeches by saying, "Now I am going back to my house to enjoy a cup of tea. You go home and think seriously about what I've said." So she wrote, she was initially a supporter of the suffragettes, but then she began to feel very frustrated by militancy and felt that violent direct action was in fact doing a disservice and really kind of blurring or obscuring the kind of constitutional arguments for the vote. So she wrote to a newspaper in 1912 saying all this stuff about militancy, and then putting a call out saying, if you will induce, you the public, will induce 670 of your friends each to buy a parrot and teach it to say votes for women by the 16th of December, she would personally supply the suffrage-themed coloured parrot cages for these parrots and have them sent to every member of parliament to wish them a happy new year. So every member of parliament would get a parrot that had been trained to say votes for women in a suffrage coloured cage.
That.
Isn't that a great idea?
Only, I guess it didn't happen.
I guess it didn't happen, and I think as a sort of freelancer, my immediate heart went out to the parrot cage maker who was presumably on standby to create 670 parrot cages that Christmas. It didn't happen, but I love the idea of teaching this. Well, she apparently, so there are various accounts of this. So apparently there were people who tried to teach a parrot to say votes for women, but they couldn't get them to do it reliably or in unison. Yeah.
I love the fact they tried. I think that it brings me closer to the dream than I ever thought possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it could be an interesting one for 2028 in the centenary, if we teach lots of birds that do mimic to say votes for women and then just loose them into the environment. People be in parks going, what did I just hear? What votes for women?
Yes, there are lots of parakeets all around the London parks now, and indeed in trees that are right outside where I am in London right now. They wake me up every morning. I just feel like we're more than halfway there.
It's got to be done. And that made me think, when I read that, made me think of a play from 1914 called The Parrot Cage, which was very neat, which was written by an American actress and suffragist called Mary Shaw, who was a fantastic person and an ardent feminist and suffragist and the theatre scene in America. When I went over to New York to do some research years ago, I found some other work by her. And I know she came to London. She was the American delegate representing the women of the American stage at the International Women's Congress in London in 1899. And by 1913, she was trying to set up her a women's theatre in America. And she also wrote suffrage plays. So this play, The Parrot Cage, I thought, well, we have to do a reading of it because it's too perfect. No, I know. So I did a reading of it in my kind of suffrage plays reading group, and it was actually really interesting. I'll be honest with you. So it's published in 1914 in Chicago by the Dramatic Publishing Company. And I'll tell you the cast of characters. They are the Philistine parrot, the free-souled parrot, the reasoning parrot, the rationalist, the idealistic parrot, and the theological parrot.
Wow.
Yeah, so can I read you the remarks she writes at the beginning of the play? Because this is very interesting if you think about the play. Okay, so whistles and screams and bird noises can be bought at band instrument stores and mechanical toy shops. These can be manipulated by someone at the sides when needed, so before the rise of the curtain. Also when the parrots fall off the perch, spoilers. All the parrots, except the free-souled parrot, speak in staccato tones. It adds to the illusion to have the parrots precede their speeches occasionally with a little bird sound. The Philistine parrot can laugh and whistle mockingly. A really interesting premise.
Yeah, and very sort of beautifully, specifically didactic. I really like and how one would perfect one's own mockingbird noise or whatever, whichever kind of parrot one was lucky enough to play.
Yeah, so it seems quite farcical. So immediately the silliness in me rises to sort of 6 people in parrot costume going, it seems ridiculous. And when we did the reading of it, the performers were very much like, shall we make parrot noises? And I was like, yeah, make parrot noises, let's see what happens. But actually there's something really beautiful about the honest, as with often with suffrage plays, about the honest kind of simple storytelling of this piece and the free-souled parrot when she finally manages to escape. So we've recorded a little bit for this salon. Now we don't have all the parrots. We have some people doubling up as some of the parrots, but we do have the free-souled parrot. So yes, well, let's see a bit of that now.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
How can I use my power Feel my joy, chained up in a cage. See, the window is open, the cage door ajar. Fly, fly, my sisters, fly to the forest of freedom. I will break this chain. I will.
She tugs fiercely at the chain. It snaps.
At last, I am free, free, free.
She disappears from the cage with motion of the arms as if by flying. Parrots all squawk and scream.
Ah!
Free,
Ah!
come
Free
back.
soul!
back.
Free soul! Come back! Come!
She has gone, flown away,
To starvation and certain death.
and just for a dream. Do you think there is any such thing as a forest?
Well, it's never been proved there is as yet.
Well, it was brave of her anyway, to out into the unknown alone.
Come, my sisters, follow me. Your wings are clipped, I know, but perhaps they are strong enough to beat you to the forest. I will help you with my strong wings, but even if you fall and perish, at least you will die free, parrots, with all the longing of the forest in your hearts. Not caged, mutilated things without souls enough to realize the wrongs that have been done to you. Follow me, follow me, follow me.
The parrots move so they are huddled together, heads on one side, listening.
If my wings were not clipped, I believe I would follow her.
Because my wings are clipped, I'm afraid of the unknown. So I try and bring God's forest and sunlight into the cage. It helps me to forget.
A man's voice is heard outside, repeated phrases one after another, waiting for the parrots to repeat the phrase after him.
Pretty Polly.
Pretty Polly.
Follow me, follow.
Scratch Polly's head.
Scratch Polly's head.
Follow me, follow me.
Polly's place is in the cage.
Follow me, follow me.
Continue until the curtain falls. The man's voice repeating Polly's places in the cage, alternating with the free soul parrot's voice repeating follow me. The parrots are huddled together in the center of the perch, listening to the distant voice of the free soul parrot, oblivious of all else till the curtain falls.
Polly's place is in the cage. Polly's place is in the cage.
Follow me, follow me.
Super, that's great.
I was that was just absolutely lovely, and so enticing, in fact, that my own furry friend got up to have a little look while that was going. Gilbert, the tiny hound. So to tell us a bit more about, after that lovely piece, about is there anything else you want to say about it, and also then I suppose why we've looked at animals altogether for this salon themed around suffrage.
Yeah, I think there is just a bit more to say about it, in that what was interesting after the reading and the end of that, when the free soul parrot escapes and then the other parrots know that the possibility of escape is real, it was quite moving, and it was surprisingly moving, given that we'd started off thinking, oh well, this would just be a strange little piece from 1914 with everyone making parrot noises, and Sajila, who played the free soul parrot in that clip, found it particularly moving, and so we just chatted after the reading to ask her why. So if we could just play that and talk a bit about that. Thank you. So Sajila, what was it about the parrot cage that really spoke to you as a performer?
The whole idea that it was, you're in a cage and you're trapped, and actually we've all got wings, just some of us don't know how to use them, and that even if they are clipped, there is still a way out. And I thought, from coming from a community of patriarchy, where my fellow sisters, Asian sisters, don't realize that they have got choices, and that they feel that they are in this, it's almost like a parrot cage, having to do their kind of duties, and that's, they don't know that there's another world outside. And I felt like the character I played was essentially me saying to them, look, come out, we're free, we can do other things, you can have ambitions, you can go and get an education, you can do, which sounds really patronizing, but it's not meant to be. But it really spoke to me, you know, the metaphor in terms of, you know, my own kind of journey as a feminist, as a you know, a woman of color, as an Asian Muslim woman, and all the things that my life could have been so very different had I taken another route. And I wonder if I still would have had that rebellious streak as the parrot that escapes had I stayed in Pakistan, perhaps. So yeah, I guess that's so it's a lot more deeper than just like a Europe. I know this was meant for you know, a European audience, a British audience, but it really spoke to me in other ways.
I think that's really great. I think it's wonderful that is one of the things, that's one of the reasons why I love these plays so much, is that you can find so much in them, and essentially those longings to have control of yourself, to have control of your own agency, to be able to make decisions, maybe even mistakes, you know, for your own future, that those things are so precious, and just the chance to be able to express yourself and move forward is what those women were really fighting for, and what we continue to fight for in many different communities and along many different kind of political and kind of socioeconomic you know, spaces, really.
And I think many women fear change so much that they think the status quo is like the safe place, but actually we all, as activists or as you know, women who want to do better, do need to step out of our comfort zone, which is you know, which is what the cage of birds do. That look, we'll just stay with the status quo. We don't know what's out there. But that's the beauty of it. We don't know what's out there. We don't know when we make that choice, take that risk, if it will lead to any. But if you don't take that risk, what a wasted life if you can't take those opportunities to kind of stretch yourself and fly from wherever you are at the moment to do. I mean, we're in a way, it's quite a metaphor for even lockdown, where I've become quite comfortable with lockdown, and it's like, come on, you know, come out to the gigs, come out and do the regular stuff again, because we have to step outside of that comfort zone. Okay, yeah, I loved it.
I suppose, and for me also, I suppose it's about those kind of, this idea of those pioneers or the people that managed to escape, that yes, there may be those we've left those parrots in that play huddled in that cage. We don't know what's going to happen to them, and but just knowing that it's been possible, you know, that'll be something else they tell other parrots, or something else that they mull on themselves, that there is an escape route, it has been found, and when people choose to use it and if they choose to use it is up to them. Yeah. But the important thing is that it has been demonstrated that it is possible.
Yeah, I mean, and that comes in any walk of life. It's like whether you're working in comedy and somebody says, look, you're too old, you're too this, or you're too, you know, you're too niche, nobody's really going to get this. And you think, no, I'm going to fly off and do my own thing and do it my way. Or whether it's in a corporate organization where somebody thinks you're not going to get that job, you know, smashing glass ceilings. That's effectively what, you know, what it's saying. So either you stay in your comfort zone and you stay where you think I don't know what that is. It's scary, and really, what you're saying is just face the fear and do that. And I'm sure as creatives, we've done the similar thing where we've just thought. I think somebody told me one of my shows was, "Oh, it's not really comedy. You can't really define it, so no one's gonna." And I said, "I don't give a shit. Like, get other reviews. I don't care about just one comedy reviewer's kind of opinion of this. I know it's good, and having faith in yourself." So she escapes this because she believes that there is something else, and she has faith in herself, and that self-confidence, where the other birds lack that. The other parrots don't have the same self-belief, because if you do, then you will push yourself, you will get outside of that comfort zone, and you will seek better things, because you know you're worth it, you know you deserve it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really fascinating, and I really like I'm doing a lot of work at the moment with Greenham women to celebrate their own the birth of their camp 40 years ago. But a lot of them are saying they want to see that in our culture, but they also don't want it to be nostalgic. They want it to be in order that women look at what's happening for them now and how we can make positive change now. So it's really it's really powerful to see links like that through the kind of work that we're doing, that is both looks at the past, but there's a reason we look to the past, isn't there? It's because women inspire women, and we're still trying to change some of the similar things. It was very interesting. Thank you to you and your amazing actor there. So why animals anyway, I suppose, is the final question for you. mean, I know why for me, because I was an animal nut, and because I said to you, can we just talk about animals, please, Naomi? Very kindly found loads of interesting things. But you let us know why that came. Was
I think, well, obviously the parrot thing was the initial thing, but so animals, on the rights of animals, and thinking about kind of who suffers in order to, that other people might thrive, is part of, ongoing issues within the suffrage campaign, and a lot of the thinking of that, and within the early Edwardian period as well. So one of the things that's notable about the suffrage campaign is its links to vegetarianism and vegetarian restaurants. For example, particularly the Eustace Miles restaurant, which was in the West End, just in Covent Garden near the Coliseum, where the Actresses Franchise League had many meetings and did put shows on. And I think where the Men's League for Women's Suffrage, or the Men's Political Union, one of the above, I'll check and put it in the comments, had their inaugural meeting. So vegetarianism was a huge issue, and also anti-vivisection was a huge issue in this period, and linked into the suffrage movement as well. So there's a big meeting that happens by the Actresses Franchise League in 1913 at the Theatre or Drury Lane, and an anti-vivisectionist gets up to speak about that. So it's kind of the intertwined links, thinking about rights and exploitation are really part of this as well. So vegetarianism as a way of life, health and strength, but also as an ethical policy going forward, and anti-vivisection, thinking about exploitation and about fast fashion and who is exploited, so that people can look pretty in a sort of facile or fleeting way.
when I was young, and you still had to sort of explain vegetarianism to your young friends and things, I came across that quote by George Bernard Shaw, which said, when he was asked why he was vegetarian, he would always say, well, animals are my friends and I don't eat my friends. And I used to sort of say that because it really summed it up. But I'm now thinking about what you've just said, I'm actually thinking he probably got that from his work supporting the suffrage movement. It's not quite so out there as he must be the only vegetarian. It's like, actually, he's part of a movement in which many women would have modeled that behavior to him.
Not at all. Let me just check. I think he was one of the main supporters of the Eustace Miles restaurant. I might be wrong. He was Bernard Shaw and his wife Charlotte Shaw were shareholders in the Eustace Miles restaurant. There we go. So that one was just in Covent Garden, and Edith Craig, who was the daughter of Ellen Terry, used to sell suffrage newspapers outside it. The other very well-known vegetarian restaurant in London was the other side of town, well, other side of Covent Garden, next to Theatre or Drury Lane, and that was the place where the census boycotters of 1911 went round, had breakfast at 3 a.m. But there was actually, I was typing up a play that was in the one of the Edinburgh suffrage shops, that they turned into a vegetarian cafe for the evening. So everyone bought vegetarian food and they sat around and shared that food, and then they did a play. So
that's really lovely.
Yeah, and obviously there's a huge tradition of vegetarianism anyway in Edinburgh in this period, but again, suffragists were really, really kind of embracing that as part of their entertainment and their way of rethinking their lives.
And again, it's really interesting how that goes through a lot of women's campaigning, doesn't it? Greenham being a vegan camp years before the current trend for veganism and stuff like that. And it's I don't know, I find that reassuring, but that's because I'm vegan and a massive softie. So.
Oh, I do actually have a book here by Mrs. Eustace Miles, which was published in the 1920s, which is Health Without Meat, which is a book of vegetarian recipes, the health-giving change of diet instead of meat. So I don't know if you have any favourites or any curious. I'm putting you on the spot now, Becca. Would you like to know, I don't know, on simple meals for schoolboys and schoolgirls, on easy meals for travellers, on casserole cookery? There's all sorts here. There's on the scientific cookery of vegetables. Gosh, that sounds very Heston Blumenthal, some years before Heston Blumenthal was doing it.
Yeah, leagues ahead as usual, the suffragettes.
Absolutely. So I think that was it. And there's the Swedish campaigner I was talking about, actually I was looking her up the other day and discovered that she was a huge part. So she co-founded the Animal Defence and Anti-Vivisection Society. And there was this huge affair called the Brown Dog Affair, which was happening I think 1902, 1903, where a dog was being used, being dissected as part of a medical demonstration at UCL. And they said that the dog was anaesthetized, and this woman and other vivisection campaigners said that the dog was not, and the dog was struggling and in tremendous pain. And it was this huge thing. And a statue was erected to the dog, and there were protests, and police were having to guard the statue 24 hours. Isn't that interesting? And to protect the statue from trade unionists and from suffragettes, the statue got removed. And now in the 80s, the statue got put back up in Battersea to the brown dog. But yes, controversy about statues and anti-vivisection and politicising statues is certainly not anything to do with the later half of the 20th century, but was completely happening at this time and absolutely kind of involved in the suffrage campaign as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Naomi. That was brilliant.
Here's to Naomi and her amazing actors and extracts that she pulls together for us. Chin chin, push hearts. Salty dogs to you all. My little dog Gil is just out of shot here. He's not been replaced by Maxie. He just they're sharing the love at the moment as we babysit this little guy. I was really struck in that interview about the way that we sometimes cannot know that our wings are clipped, and then find out that perhaps the cage doors are open and we can fly. But sometimes we have to trust women as well, of course, because in a patriarchy they know exactly when their wings have been clipped for them, and they can be very good judges of both the cages and the escapes. I think that's interesting. I mean, as Robert Jensen says, women don't need saving by men, they need saving from them, which reminded me of the Andrea Dworkin quote about the shortest leash. She says that all women are on a leash, and it's up to the women on the longest leash to fight so that the women on the shortest leash benefit as well. And I really that really rings true for me. Which is very interesting when we talk about animal rights now, of course, as well. We're in a very strange situation these days where the sentencing for animal rights crimes are often much harsher than those for sexual or violent crimes, and it's driven nearly all of the animal campaigners, those looking after the creatures on the very shortest leashes, well underground. And of course the controversial new bill, the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill, which is the focus of the Kill Bill protests, will have a massive impact on that as well. According to a leading lawyer, it will be the biggest widening of police powers to impose restrictions on public protest that we've seen in our lifetimes. That's quite a big deal. I can't imagine it'd be helpful for any of us, especially for those on the shortest leash or on those animal rights campaigners that champion those rights. So on that note, it brings me to my Culture Club recommendation. I am going to recommend to you, look at this, the Sexual Politics of Meat, which is an amazing piece of 70s second wave feminism. It's by Carol A. Adams. It's been made in, it was brought out in 1991, so not 70s actually, but it draws on the work of 70s feminism. And it's about how being a vegetarian for her reverberates with feminist meaning. And it covers language and mythology and history, picks up actually on the same period, some of the periods that Naomi's spoken to us about, and carries that on forward through the wars. And it's very interesting about it sort of responds to people like Gerda Lerner's seminal 1970s piece of work, The Origins of Patriarchy, by arguing that animals' oppression and women's are linked together. And she talks about, Carol talks about wives fix meat for their husbands because they won't give it up, and states that meat's message includes association with the male role from patriarchal attitudes, that the ends justify the means, that the objectification of other beings is a necessary part of life, and that violence can and should be masked. So I just think that's really interesting, and of course feeds into that, if any of you've seen our live Salon de Chocolat show, that whole piece that we did around a study that came out a few years ago in America, when men were asked what defined them across the United States, and they came up with meat, booze and sex. And when they were asked which one they couldn't live without losing their masculinity, the one they chose, leave that bee, Gilbert. Both dogs trying to catch the bees, so stupid. The one that men felt they couldn't live without in America, a hyper-masculinized country, of course, the thing they couldn't live without losing their masculinity, they said was meat, which I think is really interesting. Now, so Sexual Politics of Meat, it's a fascinating read. I really recommend it to you. So I'm going to leave you now before I release you back into the wild with a final song that puts animals in charge. Felt like it was an appropriate end, since the animals have been in charge of this show completely. And it's the original's by the incredible string band, and it was played to me when I was a kid, and I just just could never believe it was a real song, and I kept being like, play it again though, like, is this an actual grown-up song that grown-ups have made? So it's about a really awesome little hedgehog. So I'm going to sing it for you now, and it's called the Hedgehog Song. I'm not the kind to complain that I never had a girl to love. Many fine girl I tried hard to know, but I think I never tried enough. Sitting one day by myself and I'm thinking what could be wrong, when this funny little hedgehog comes coming to me and it starts up to sing this song. Well, you know all the words and you sung all the notes, but you never quite learned the song she sang. I can tell by the sadness in your eyes that you never quite learned the song. Every day when the sun goes down and the evening is so very still, many fine girls I've held in my arms, and I hope there's many more that I will. But just when everything is going fine and absolutely nothing is wrong, this funny little hedgehog is always around, and every time he wants to sing me this song. Well, you know all the words and you sung all the notes, but you never quite learned the song she sung. I can tell by the sadness in your eyes, you never quite learned the song. One day when the moon was full, I thought I might settle down. I found myself a pretty little girl and stopped all my running around. But just when the preacher came along and he's just about to pop on the ring, this funny little hedgehog comes running down the aisle, and I don't have to tell you what he did sing. Well, you know all the words and you sung all the notes, but you never quite learned the song she sung. I can tell by the sadness in your eyes, you never quite learned the song. I'm not the kind to complain that I never had a girl to love. Many fine girls I've tried hard to know, but I think I never tried enough. But now I'll be looking all my days, and it isn't just me I've got to please. This funny little hedgehog who's always around, and the only words he ever sings to me are these. Oh, you know all the words, you sung all the notes, but you never quite learned the song she sung. I can tell by the sadness in your eyes, you never quite learned the song. I'm not the kind to complain. Thank you so much, everyone. See you in a couple of weeks. Let's just unite Maxie and the Lady Uke one more time.